Hey everybody, it's Sam with Pro Wrestling Overtime with the Overtime Network, and wanted to talk to you about something that I've been seeing pop up from time to time since WrestleMania about AEW. Should AEW have a WrestleMania type event each year? And I can tell you that Tony Khan eventually wants to get there. He has been discouraged by upper management, maybe is the best way to put that they are still not sure that their fans will come to a stadium. And the reason why they came to that conclusion is because of WrestleMania 38 and its problems coming close to selling the minimum setup. As we talked leading up to WrestleMania 38, I told you guys that the lowest amount of people that WWE could have in Texas Stadium was 68,000 people. That's the setup for security and for the wrestlers and the camera angles that they chose. Now, there was another one that they could have chose, I believe it was 78 or 79, but they were a little nervous about that. They wanted to start 67, 68, and then when they sold the tickets, pop it up, open up more seats, change a little bit of the configuration. However, guys, they didn't even come close. Yes, I know it was announced to be over 70,000. It was 71,000, I believe, one night. Here's the issue. When you look at it, according to Thurston from WrestleNomics, they gave away 12,000 tickets night one, and I believe 12,700 on night two. So they didn't actually sell those particular tickets. They were right around 57, 58,000 people with tickets sold. Now, of course, we have to talk about AEW, New Japan, Pro Wrestling, where they're coming together and how they sold out the pre-sale for that June 26th date. And how that sold so quickly, 40 minutes, is what it took to sell out the pre-sale. That led to this conversation. Should they have a WrestleMania type event? And people are pointing towards Double or Nothing. That Double or Nothing, which is coming up on May 29th, that should be the event. They always hold Double or Nothing in Vegas, and it would then have to be at Allegiant Stadium. I'm not 100% sure that is where they should have their very first stadium event. Can they sell out a stadium? I think they can if they do it one time a year. And it is announced ahead of time, like they do WrestleManias, so that people overseas can also plan. I think it would be good for the wrestling industry. Have WrestleMania in April, wherever it's going to be, like it was in Dallas this particular year, so that all the promotions can come there, be seen, sell merch, and do shows. If AEW would then have their stadium type event over Labor Day in September, which is when All In is, then again, the smaller promotions could come that week. There could be a StarCast that week, and that way you'd have WrestleCon at WWE and StarCast at All In, excuse me, I just went blank there for a minute. I think there is a real possibility that they could have that kind of event. Will they? I think eventually they will at least try. I think the first time it will definitely work. Will it work in year 5 or year 10? I don't know. They're barely, at times, having 800,000 watch TV. I don't know that they're going to get, 50 to 100,000 people to come to a stadium event. So that's something that, we really gotta watch. And I know a lot of you are talking about it. Just don't know yet that it's plausible to do every single year. Now, earlier you heard me talk about the AEW New Japan Pro Wrestling event that is happening in Chicago on June 26th. I would be remiss if I don't tell you at 2:30 on June 26th, directly across the street, you literally can come at 2:30 across the street to Warrior Wrestling, and they're setting up an absolutely banger of a card. You're going to want to be there. Then you're going to be able to walk directly across the street and go to the AEW New Japan Pro Wrestling show. It is a combination show. And what they're not telling you, you guys may want to hear. Because I'm seeing a lot of you guys make up these dream cards. And I personally want to see Okada take on Bryan Danielson too. It's probably not going to happen, guys. Let me tell you why. When this was negotiated, there had to be protection for both sides. They didn't want to do a card full of junk finishes or DQs and stuff like that. So, each performer has to be protected unless they're in a main storyline. And how New Japan does this is how they did the card. You can go back and watch it. Was January's Wrestle Kingdom Night 3. They did a joint promotion with Noah. Noah is one of their Japanese rivals. And there had to be protection on both sides for certain performers. So what they decided to do with that card, every single match, let me repeat that, every single match was a tag team match. The factions that are in Japan went against each other. They had one, did I emphasize that enough? One main event match. And it was a singles match. It was the only singles match on the entire card. So, if you're wanting a dream matchup, you would be getting something like Okada and Tanahashi versus Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson. Because everybody wants to see Okada go against Bryan Danielson, and Jon Moxley and Tanahashi have been arguing, fighting, calling each other out. So you put them in tag teams and have them go at it. Doesn't really matter who wins or loses because they're singles wrestlers. And whoever does lose can say, I wasn't pinned. It was because I was in a tag team, whatever. So guys, look for that to happen. That is why they're not announcing a lot of things ahead of time. That is also why you're seeing in AEW them kind of forming up factions and stables so that they can do this and take it on. Don't believe that they'll do it in the United States? Really? Did you watch the Windy City riots that happened, I believe it was the week after WrestleMania? Maybe 2 weeks after. It was in Chicago. Jon Moxley was there. He took on Will Ospreay. We know the controversial finish that the Billy Goat has been throwing a fit about. But if you watched that show, you saw 5-on-5 matches. You saw 4-on-5 or 4-on-4 matches. You saw a lot of factions taking on each other and a lot of tag team matches. Guys, a lot of people have been saying, well, Roman's taking a break. So what are they going to do? Well, remember on a previous podcast, I told you guys John Cena's coming back. I had heard he was coming back the week of June 15th, which would have been June 17th on SmackDown. However, now I'm hearing that he agreed to June 21st. Here's the kicker, though. That's after Roman is scheduled to be back, and he is to be back for Money in the Bank and SummerSlam, which is what John Cena was coming in for. John Cena will be, you've seen it going, Austin Theory calling him out and talking about him on social media. We're going to see a program of John Cena, Austin Theory, Money in the Bank, and SummerSlam, from what I'm understanding. However, late last week, well, no, it was actually early last week, they called John Cena's representatives and wanted to know, could they get him on spot dates sooner? John Cena called them back late last week, and they are in negotiations for that. So, guys, the way John Cena works with WWE, he pretty much tries to open up his schedule when he can for them. So if you're having a big city live event, I would say from now until after Hell in a Cell June 5th, there's a good possibility you may see John Cena. Good possibility there. I'm also hearing Finn Balor is set to turn on AJ Styles and join Edge's Judgment Day faction. Do I like this? No. I love Finn Balor as a heel. Please do not think I don't. I absolutely do. However, I don't like the storyline of Finn Balor turning on AJ Styles, his Bullet Club brother. He is going to have to explain that when he turns. Because remember, they're Bullet Club for life. So there has to be a reason or an opportunity to do that. I love Finn Balor as a heel. I've told you guys that numerous times, that him in Japan as Prince Devitt, I think, was some of his best work. And I absolutely love him to death. We talked about Roman when we were talking about John Cena. Roman is still sore and hurt from WrestleMania 38. Even though he's still been appearing and he's still getting treatment, he was in Europe for 2 out of the 4 dates. Guys, he needs rest. And that's basically what the medical trainers and doctors have said, that he's been working his butt off since August of last year, and that he needs rest. If he's going to get better and get back to 100%, or as close to 100% as you can be as a pro wrestler, then he has to take some time off. They're giving him 4 to 6 weeks, and he is still scheduled for Money in the Bank and SummerSlam, so you guys don't have to worry about that. But since he's off, they're going to take this time to try to build up some contenders. And let's talk real quick about those. It's my understanding on Raw, they're going to be doing Matt Riddle and Randy Orton. Those two are not going to break up right away. We've been kind of waiting on it, but they are going to be one of the upcoming contenders. Did you hear me say one? Yes, that's right. They are going to choose one of them. Both of them are not going to be facing Roman Reigns. Only one. From what I also understand is people backstage think Drew McIntyre is a very nice guy. Very professional. They would love for any young wrestler to look up to him and model themselves off of him. But they do not feel that he is a draw. They don't feel like he's a big-time star. He doesn't have that feeling about him. He's not hot, as in people want to see him, and they really aren't sure what they can do to get him to be over, to be hot. Well, I have a simple solution. How about quit putting him with Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss for 4 months? If he was over, if he was a star, if he was a draw, that killed it. And I do mean killed it. Personally, if I was Drew McIntyre, and I know he did not realize that he was going to be in a 4-month program with them. But remember, at day 1, Drew McIntyre hurt his neck and was scheduled to have that fixed and was going to be out and possibly missing WrestleMania. He's still dealing with that. It did not get fixed. He decided not to leave because he wanted to be part of WrestleMania. Well, guys, if I was him and looking back on it, I would have chose to do what I needed to do in order to get that fixed so that I wouldn't have to be in the program with Madcap Moss and Baron Corbin. That was just an absolute disaster. It is also my understanding that no, they are not pushing back Drew McIntyre taking on Roman. They've decided to forget it. So you're looking at either Matt Riddle or Randy Orton taking on Roman sometime later, and Cody Rhodes being the two that Roman will be taking on. Who is he going to face from SmackDown? I don't know. But those two contenders could take them up to September. And remember, the draft, the brand draft, is going to be happening in September because it did not make sense to have it right before Survivor Series. So they're going to be having the draft in September, and I look for somebody from Raw to come over, and I think it will be Seth Rollins, also bringing Becky over in order for Becky and Ronda's program to start, them to be poking at each other, but not touching or anything like that until after the first of the year. Is anyone else getting upset with the MJF Warlow story? Guys, I'm all for this. Love this storyline. Absolutely love it. Love long-term builds. Here's my problem. This, where MJF is picking Wardlow's opponents, giving him stipulations, such as getting whipped. Guys, he did this with Cody in his very first program. Remember, Cody took on Wardlow in the cage. Remember the moonsault off the top of the cage? Remember him getting whipped? But then in his second big program, MJF's second big program, what did he do? We had the 5 rings of hell that Chris Jericho had to go through. And now we're getting this again with Wardlow. Is this the story that they want to tell about MJF? That MJF always has people around him, stipulations and everything where people can't get to them, and then when they finally do, people don't care. And what do I mean by people don't care? Guys, Inner Circle versus Pinnacle in Blood and Guts, I was looking forward to. And even though it was a good match, it was kind of a letdown. We had to wait and wait and wait and wait. And it really wasn't MJF versus Chris Jericho in that match. Yes, I know they both ended up in the top of the cage with MJF pushing Chris Jericho off. And all of you will remember that because you made fun of Chris Jericho, 50 years old, falling off a cage and landing on foam. Because we got to see that. They messed that up. And so many of you made that the story other than the Blood and Guts match. But here's the thing. I don't want to see Wardlow have to jump through all of these hoops. If they were new, maybe. But he's already said he's going to whip him like he did Cody. He's going to have to go through Shawn Spears. I don't care. I don't want to see it. Wardlow has lived through 3 years of hell by being MJF's lackey. That's enough. Guys, tell me what you think of this. I want to know your thoughts on AEW having a WrestleMania type event. What do you think about John Cena coming back, Roman taking some time off, Drew just being a nice guy, and they've pretty much forgotten about him? What do you think about the big June 26th show, AEW versus New Japan, if it's tag teams and factions? If you see a bunch of 5-on-5s, is that really what you want? And what do you think of the MJF Wardlow storyline? I really want to hear from you guys. As always, you know you can write me at prowrestlingot@gmail.com. That's prowrestlingot@gmail.com. You can hit me up on Twitter, Pro Overtime. That's 2 O's, Pro Overtime. With any questions, comments, problems, or protests that you guys may have. I look forward to hearing from you and talking to you guys. I will probably talk to you guys again soon. And hopefully I see you down the road.